Hey there, it's Walt. So I'm wondering, does your life feel a bit like a slice of Swiss cheese? And if so, you're definitely not alone. The research is showing that more and more people are feeling scattered and fragmented and unfocused. When we started out with this pandemic thing way back in late February, early March, the consensus, certainly among leaders in big organizations, was that we've got an emergency. We've got to kind of double down. We've got to come together. We've got to work together as a team. This is just a short sprint. We're going to get through it. So we got to do what we've got to do. We've got to pull together. We've got to work hard. We've got to muscle through it. And of course, that wasn't the case. It wasn't simply a short sprint. And what we thought was a short sprint then began to look like a marathon. And we continued to push on, believing that we were going to get through to the finish line. And then it was like, yeah, this is more like a ultra marathon. And then, no, this is kind of the way things are. And there was an interesting study last week out of Microsoft that looked at trends within its own set of people, their own employees. And what they discovered was that on average, their people are working 4 hours more per week, that they're working longer into the evening and at night. There's become a night shift, that more and more people are working weekends, that more and more people are suffering from meeting fatigue because there are more meetings and there's this whole phenomena of Zoom fatigue. And so that's happening at the organizational level. And of course, from a personal perspective, we're all juggling more. For those who have come home or are still working from home or working remotely or trying to juggle the two places, added to that is juggling kid care in the summer and the anticipation of what the whole back to school thing is going to look like, juggling pet care and house care and care of loved ones. And that's even before you get to self-care, which, who has time for that in the middle of this ultra marathon that has now become a way of life? And we end up feeling worn out, run down, fatigued all of the time, feeling like a piece of Swiss cheese, frankly. So two things I just wanted to share with you today about ways to remediate the feeling of Swiss cheese. Number one, this way of life isn't sustainable, where it's just this constant continuum of work and trying to juggle all of this other stuff. It just becomes this blur. As Sean Aker talks about in his beautiful book, The Happiness Advantage, he talks about the cognitive horizon just flattening and everything becomes just this blur, the same thing day in and day out. And that's not sustainable. It's really not sustainable. And so one thing that we can do is to create structure for our day, to actually impose a structure that might have been imposed by work in the past, but by having a beginning, a middle, and an end to the day. And so for a long time in our own business, because this has been the way we've done business for well more than a decade now, but we start our business day with a business meeting. So at 9:30 in the morning, Ann and I, we get together and we have a business meeting. It lasts about 20 or 30 minutes, but that's how we transition into the workday. We actually have a business meeting. And then we actually break for lunch. We often are working in the same space or very close to one another. Maybe she's working in her studio, so it's a little bit funny because we see each other, but we'll get together for lunch and we'll have a lunch break and we'll catch up and talk about how was your morning, but we'll have a demarcation there in the middle of the day. Sometimes we'll take a walk in the middle of the day just to kind of break it up. And then at the end of the day, having some type of end of day ritual. So around 5:30 or 6 o'clock, we call it an end to the day and we close down the workday and we get together. We have hummus and crackers and sparkling water looking out at the sea. But there's a ritual that we have for the end of the day. And so we impose on the day a structure, because without a structure, everything just becomes this blur. The other thing that you can do, and I really encourage you to do this, it's one of the cornerstones of my second book, The Power Principles of Time Mastery. It's weekly planning. Actually doubling down on weekly planning to become even more meticulous about how you plan your week, so that your week, your plans include all of these other things that you're juggling: your self-care, your pet care, your care of your loved ones, your interaction with the kids and the camps and the school responsibilities and all of that. Actually getting them planned on your calendar so that during the week you have that structure that you've already put on the week. That weekly planning process that you do on a Sunday morning or on the Friday before the next week, in that thoughtful, quiet time, you can actually impose some structure and sanity to the week ahead. So I run marathons and ultra marathons. Ann and I both are ultra distance runners, and you can run ultra marathons. And the only way to sustain the distance is actually to have good practices and care along the way, to take care of yourself, to rest, to fuel your body well, to hydrate well. And in those really, really long races, you actually sleep and take naps. And we're in this period of time. We believe that we're going to get through this period of time. There will be another side. History shows that there's another side. We can look back on, the Spanish flu pandemic. We know that there's another side to this, and we just need to double down and to be strong in ourselves, strong for our loved ones, strong for the people that we care about in the world. And so I'm hopeful that maybe those thoughts would allow you some tools and strategies to enable you to go the distance. Make it a great rest of the day, great rest of the week. Talk soon.